Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amelia. Today I thought we'd do something a little bit fun, a little bit different, and that is of course going to be the mid-year freakout tag. So I don't have too much to say with the intro, so go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, and let's jump straight into the video. Question number one is, what is your favorite book so far? And I'm going to give two answers for this actually. Number one is going to be Memory of Light. This is the final book in the grand series that is Wheel of Time. As I'm sure you know, I really enjoyed this conclusion. It made me feel a lot of things, and which I think is what you want from a conclusion, and I really felt that it really summed everything up that happened in the preceding 13 books in a very satisfying way. And I just really loved this book. It made the whole Wheel of Time worth it. The other book that I have that I want to mention is Eve, or How the Female Body Drove 200 Million Years of Human Evolution by Kat Bohannon. I originally listened to this on audiobook and I loved it so much that I bought a physical copy because I want to be able to go through and like highlight some things that I found really interesting. And this pretty much talks about exactly what it says. It talks about how the female body drove human evolution, and it goes through like different points in time where like a first, like for example, the first like lactating mammal, or when, and just different elements, different times when our like not genetic, I don't know what you call it, the tree, you know, where we diverged along that and different steps that made us become more and more human. I think I did a really bad job of explaining that, but that's kind of the concept. And I think it was really well executed, really well researched, and very entertaining. Well, I don't know if entertaining is the right word, but like I was never like bored listening to this. So I suppose entertaining is the word, but very insightful and educational, I guess is probably a better word. And I highly recommend this to women especially, but also just to everybody. Question number two is, what is the best sequel you've read so far? And I am tempted to say Memory of Light again, and I probably would say this is the best sequel, but because I'm going to use it for another answer and I've already used it, I'm going to talk about instead that. Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree. So this is kind of technically not a sequel, technically it's a prequel, but I'm going to count it as one. You know, it came out after the book, so, or the first book, Legends and Lattes, so I'm going to count it. And I don't know if this is a common opinion, but I kind of actually prefer this one to Legends and Lattes. I just think it was, I don't know, there was like a little bit more happening in the plot, so I found it slightly more compelling. And as much as I love coffee and the setting of a coffee house, cafe, don't know why I forgot that word, I think that the setting of the bookshop was really atmospheric. And I really love this one. So if you read Legends and Lattes and liked it, I definitely recommend that you check this one out. And if you haven't read either of them, check them both out. All right, question number three, what is the new release that you're most excited to read? And I would have to say that's gonna have to be Mirrored Heavens by Rebecca Roanhorse. This came in the mail like a couple of days ago, and probably honestly like right after I finished filming this, I'm gonna get into reading this. I'm gonna be making a read and review video for this book. It might actually come out before this video, but this is the final book in her Between Earth and Sky trilogy, which is a trilogy that is inspired by Native North American and just, well, I think it's more than just North American. I think she includes South American as well elements in here. And yeah, I liked the first two. I think I rated them higher at the time than I would rate them now, but I still think they're very interesting, and it's nice to see some different voices in the fantasy sphere. So I'm excited to finish that trilogy, and it's a really beautiful cover. It's honestly stunning. Question four is, what is the release you're most excited for in the second half of the year? And for this, I would either say Fury of the Gods, which is going to be book 3 in the Bloodsworn trilogy, or Navigator's Children, which is the 4th book in the Last King of Austin Ard series by Tad Williams. Both of those series I have really been enjoying so far. I don't really know if there's one that I'd put above the other. Maybe Navigator's Children, just because I've been waiting for it longer. That's the one that last year I was so sure it was coming out last November, and then it turns out I can't read and it's coming out this November. So hopefully it actually comes out this November, or I'll be very sad. Another one that I'm excited for, and I'm sure everybody else in the sort of fantasy realm as well, is going to be book 5 in the Stormlight Archive But I feel like that one's a bit lower down just because I still have 2 books to read in that series. So I like still have material to get me by till then, so I'm not quite as like hyped, you know, because I still have stuff to read. All right, the next question is, what is your biggest surprise so far? And I think for that, I'm gonna say The Lost Bookshop by Evie Woods. This is a book that I just acquired randomly. My mother-in-law came over and was like, here, I bought you this book. And so I had like no expectations for it. It kind of seemed like something that would be like a cute little book that I might read and kind of feel pretty neutral about. And while it's not like a new favorite or anything, I was surprised by how much I actually enjoyed it and how much depth there was to it. It was a lot more than just kind of like a fluffy little thing. There was discussions about feminism and womanhood, and I actually really enjoyed it. Although you should check the trigger warnings before you read this because it's darker than I expected it to be. If you want to hear more about this, I will be talking about it in my June wrap-up / July reset, whatever it ends up being called. I'll have a more in-depth review of this then. Question number 7 is, do you have any new favorite authors? And this author isn't specifically new, but I would say, like to me, but I would say probably Brandon Sanderson, because last year I read his Secret Projects, but this year I got into reading a lot more of his other stuff. Well, first of all, I read his writing in the final 3 Wheel of Time books, but I also started reading Stormlight Archive, as I mentioned, and I've been really enjoying that. And I think when reading just the Secret Projects, I don't think I appreciated him as much as an author in like the epic fantasy scale until I read Stormlight, because it's so much more in depth and involved, and because it's a longer series with multiple entries, you get a lot more time with the characters and a lot more time to sort of sink into the world and the writing. So I think this year he's definitely become a lot more of a favorite for me. All right, question 8, who is your new favorite character? I would say, sticking with the Brandon Sanderson theme, I'd probably say Shalyn from the Stormlight Archive. I just find her really interesting. There's a lot of sort of layers to her character, and she's already come a long way from who she was at the beginning of Way of Kings, and I'm excited to see where she ends up at by the end of book 5. All right, question I think 9 we're on now is, have any books made you cry? And I keep picking up this book, but it is of course A Memory of Light. This book, there's a scene and a character dies, and I obviously don't want to say too much about it because that's major spoilers for the series, but it was a character that was, I don't even know if I want to say, I'm trying not to spoil it for anybody who would see my previous videos and hear me sort of talk about this series, but a character I really liked dies, and it's such a great moment. Like, I'm really sad that they died, but the way that it was done was extremely impactful, and yeah, that made me cry. And this is only the second book. I'm pretty sure the second book, I'm pretty sure, yeah, that's made me cry. The first one being Assassin's Fate by Robin Hobb. So those two are now up on the pedestal in terms of making me invested enough to actually cry, because I don't really cry at books very often, as you can tell. Only 2 books have succeeded in making me cry. So, all right, following that up, the next question is, what is a book that's made you happy? And I don't really read books with like happy vibes. Maybe I should change that, but I mean, I would say reading any good book makes me happy, but in terms of like actually like happy or like laughing at a book, I don't really think anything. Like maybe Going Postal and 16 Ways to Defend a Walled City have like the happiest sort of vibe, but even though they're not really specifically happy, they're just kind of chill and a little bit humorous. So I guess that, but I wouldn't say they're specifically like really happy either. So I don't really know what to say for this one. Okay, the next question is, what is the book with the best cover that you bought this year? And I keep reusing books in this, but I would probably say Mirrored Heavens, or The Book That Wouldn't Burn also has a really nice cover, but I think this one is better, but this one is really beautiful. The one thing I will say about this one is I saw the second book in the bookstore. It's just a recolored version of this same cover, and I just think that's kind of lame. Also, this is really slippery apparently, but both of these are beautiful. All right, and the final question is, what do you really want to read by the end of this year? And honestly, I have quite a bit that I still want to get to. There's still quite a few things on my 24 books in 2024 list that I want to read. And then I also just really want to finish a lot of the series that I have ongoing. So for example, I've got the First Law series ongoing. I've got Faithful and the Fallen. There's a bunch of series that I'm waiting for the last book. So that's like Bloodsworn and Last King of Austin Ard. I also still need to finish Gentleman Bastards, the Jade City series. I forget what it's called. What else? Stormlight. Lots of stuff. I have lots of things I want to read. I never have enough time to read everything I want to read, but yeah, those would probably be my priorities, I guess. All right, we've reached the end of the questions. So let me know in the comments any of your answers to any of these questions. I'm, of course, always interested in what you guys are reading or what you think about the books that I'm reading. But that is all that I have for you today. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.